Welcome back to the channel and welcome to The Wrap, formerly known as the Weekend Wrap. But as you know, because on this particular week there was a fight happening on the Tuesday afterwards, I decided to delay the video up until right now. It's not going to be a very long one, but I will talk quickly about all the boxing that happened over the weekend, the results, which ones I got right, which ones I got wrong, reasons some of them I might have got wrong, and anything else in between. So as always, please like and subscribe, and if you do enjoy the content, let me know in the comments. I appreciate it. Yeah, let's get into it. So first things first, we'll talk about the Matchroom Card, which took place in Cardiff, Wales on Saturday just gone. Now, I watched the entire card. I only predicted and only gave a prediction for the very last fight that was on the card, which was Kenichi Ogawa versus OgawaCordina. But running through the card quickly, Sky Nicholson faced, I can't remember her first name, but Bouvier. I remember the fighter. It was a very sort of lackluster performance. Definitely seemed a bit jaded, a bit tired, just not as snappy as usual. Very little power on most shots thrown, but won every single round quite convincingly. Gonna go now and have a break for I don't know how long, but I personally wouldn't have it for too long. I'd like to see her back out in around sort of September time, and then to finish off the year late November, early December. Get a good 6 years, 6 fights in your first professional year. Makes sense to me. But yeah, she did what she needed to do, so congrats on that. Dalton Smith, he faced Perioni, who was the last person he faced? I think it might have been Zelfa Barrett last year. I have to double check that. However, that was a pretty well scored fight. He was, he was very much a game opponent, limited in terms of actual ability, but in terms of heart, grit, and sort of power, nope, he was definitely a worthy opponent. Dalton Smith, he showed he had gears, he showed he had levels, and definitely looking forward to kind of his trajectory moving forward. He's still definitely one of the best British prospects in the country at the moment, so I am definitely looking forward to seeing where he kind of goes from here. Going to that co-main, it was Zelfa Barrett versus Corbanoff. Now, I remember Corbanoff faced OgawaCordina. Was it last year or was it in late 2020? I think he faced him in the Garden, Matchroom Square Garden. And that fight could have easily, I think it was given as a split decision. Or if not, it definitely could have been. I don't remember the fight that well, if I'm totally honest, but Zelfa gave a much better performance than what OgawaCordina initially did. Everything kind of, he snapped out the jab quite a lot, but he seemed to be a bit hesitant to pull the trigger at many various stages in that fight. So I'm not sure if that's necessarily a case of him worrying about something. Maybe his mind's not totally in it. I mean, it could possibly have been him thinking, about his mother's passing, because she obviously passed a year ago to the day when he was fighting. So I mean, it's not a huge criticism, but I still think there's a bit more seasoning that needs to take place with him before he actually goes for a world title fight or goes to that next level. So he probably needs one more sort of building fight before any other fight gets made. Who knows? That's how I kind of see it, but I could be totally wrong. It's not the first time. Ultimately, let's go to that card's main event. Now, this is the only fight I did predict, and I did say in my prediction video that OgawaCordina would prove that he belongs at world level and that he is, of that standard. But I did feel that this might be like one fight too soon, because he's not had any fights thus far on the caliber of a Kenichi Ogawa. And I predicted Ogawa to win the fight on points. I didn't think he'd be able to stop Cordina, but I did say obviously if one of them was going to stop, it would probably more likely be him. Joe Cordina totally ripped up that script, and you know, he not only stopped Kenichi Ogawa, he stopped him within 2 rounds. Now, the reason I don't feel bad about getting this prediction wrong, number one, because obviously I'm proud for Cordina, you know, sort of being Welsh, being British, and proving people wrong and proving that he is at that level, as I said he would. But realistically, nobody, I don't think there's anyone outside of possibly a member of Cordina's team that would have told you he was going to win that fight inside 2 rounds via knockout. So yeah, I think we all got that one wrong in some way, shape or form. So yeah, I will take that one quite happily, and congrats to Joe Cordina. Let's see what he does moving forward, and we'll see where the trajectory takes him. All right, next up, the only fight from the Showtime card that I saw was the Stephen Fulton versus Daniel Roman fight. The whole undercard I haven't seen. To be honest, there wasn't a huge amount apart from the David Morrell fight, but I kind of knew how that was going to go, so not really any real point speaking about it. I did predict Daniel Roman I predicted Stephen Fulton to win on points. So I did get that one right, and I only recently watched the fight several hours ago in its entirety, and his basic the movement was just as I said it would be. Like the pivots, it's a slight in and out, switching off of the angles, hitting both hands, and he even started holding his feet sort of rounds 10, 11, 12, and was literally walking Daniel Roman down, you know, just sort of blocking shots, high pressure, high volume, and just basically just washing him like moment after moment. It was quite an impressive feat. His lack of power, I do think, is going to cause some big problems when he moves up weights, because if he doesn't have enough to keep certain people off him, like higher level pressure fighters will cause him problems, I do believe. But the natural boxing skills, obviously, if he can stay switched on and remain with a very solid gas tank, then yes, it definitely is possible that he will be just fine in some of those weights. He may even develop a little bit more of a pop with a bit more weight on him, so we'll see where it goes. But yeah, that one was predicted correctly, and I would definitely look forward to seeing the undisputed between him and MJ Akhmadaliev, if that can be made after Madaliev's mandatory defense, which is happening on the 25th of this month. So let's see. Now to the main event down under in Australia, Melbourne, Australia, I believe it was as well. Now, as I want to make a sort of a slight disclaimer, like while I did back Devin Haney, I totally backed him, I supported him 100%, as I said in the previous video. I guess technically you can say I didn't actually formally say he wins the fight, nor did I say that George Kambosos wins the fight. So I mean, I can take it as a mild victory, but yeah, I didn't expressly say it out on the video, but I did put a bet on it, so maybe I'll take it in that instance. Now, I did expect him to show his dominance in terms of IQ, you know, sort of skill, natural ceiling and ability to win, but I didn't expect, I thought it would be a hard fight for him just due to sort of the surroundings, potentially having to, you know, have the perception of if the crowd's involved, and you know, the judges, if they can't see how certain things are. But in the previous video I did say he's literally got a box long, he's got a hit and move, he's got a takeout, he's got to take the crowd out of it, he's got to make it clear to the judges that every time he's throwing the shots they're landing, and anytime Kambosos tries to throw something, it doesn't hit, it doesn't register. He has to make that very clear in order to keep in order to get the rounds. And ultimately he did that in abundance. He was a very dominant, masterful performance from start to finish. the only round I gave Kambosos was the 12th, and that's literally because Haney took it off, like sort of moving about, running a bit, watching the clock just to run down time. And I was being generous because I still could have technically given that round to Haney if I really wanted to. It was a shutout. He proved that he's at least in terms of belts and consensus, he has to be the number one in the division now. Constantly, it was called the email champ. He was, he's a hype job. He's not what anyone claims to be. But yet he was the one calling out every other fighter in the division. Nobody else wanted to fight him. I got to give respect to Kambosos to a degree because he did fight him. He lost all of his belts, but now no one can claim that Devin Haney is a hype job. I mean, yeah, there's still good fights for him. Obviously, people can talk about the Lomachenko fight and the Tank Davis fight and all of that. I'm not going to go into what I feel I would like to see him do next on this one. I'm just here to give him his flowers and say that, yep, he is the man. And at least all those times when he was calling people out all those years, no one can now say that it was cap or it was for effect. He didn't really want the fights. Well, no, he proved that he did, because he's the only one that was prepared to go abroad, and not just abroad, like a literal 18-hour flight to, you know, the other side of the world, more or less, with no team, his dad not with him initially, all of that stuff, and he still went into the other guy's backyard and took everything the guy had to offer. So congrats to Devin. And also, I'll give a little big up to George Kambosos as well, because he didn't have to take the fight. Okay, last but not least, Naoya Inoue versus Nonito Donaire, number 2. I was so in my previous video, you would have heard me pretty much say how, you know, I kind of looked at both fighters and, you know, what I was expecting. Now, full disclaimer, and I can only be honest with this. When I did give my prediction, you saw how difficult it was for me to do so, and I kind of did it more based on heart and kind of what I wanted to happen, more so than, you know, what was presented factually, just in terms of the two. That being said, I predicted that Nonito Donaire would win, and I said, you know, I'm going to be bold, I'm going to do it by knockout as well. He said certain things in the lead up to this fight which were different to what he had said previously. In the last fight, he very much had a just happy to be here kind of mentality, whereas this one is like, well, I know I can hurt this guy. You know, I've damaged him previously, like, so I'm actually going for the win this time, and you know, I plan on getting it. And if you look at his run since that last fight with Inoue and Inoue's run, his has actually been more impressive. The performances have been more impressive. I mean, look, they both were undefeated in that time between that fight and obviously this one coming up. So I just looked at it and said that one person just looks like they're having that rise and resurgence and that trajectory, and the other one, they're still top of their game, but they're not showing as much. Maybe it was complacency. Maybe they just didn't think those opponents were worth putting the necessary time in. But I mean, I did, yeah. So I predicted Nonito Donaire. Like I said, more of a hope than anything else. Now, with regards to it, if I had have been able to see the weigh-in and stuff beforehand, I probably wouldn't have, just because in that first fight, Inoue looked much, much smaller than Donaire in the ring on the night. This fight, they were definitely comparable. You could almost even say he actually looks like he could have been the slightly bigger guy. He's naturally filled out now. He's 29 years old, so he's fully into his man strength and man body. Obviously, Donaire, 39, I think he's turning 40 later this year. So it's one of those things where father time does kind of catch you, because the one thing that caught Donaire in this fight was speed. Like Inoue's speed was just a bit too much for him. And I want to make it clear right now, I take absolutely nothing away from the Nito Donaire, because I refuse to take anything away from Inouye's performance as well. He's proved that he is, he is the apex predator down at those lower weights at present. And I feel like he'll be that all the way up until possibly like featherweight. That may be the only issue that he has, I believe. But Nonito Donaire, like, full credit to him. He's a true ambassador of the sport. He's one of the good guys. He's one of the guys that you want representing you in something like this. Almost never has issues in terms of outside the ring antics. There's very little, I don't think there's many people that have bad words to say about him, and that just goes to show the character of the guy. And equally, Inoue is also very, very much a class representative of the sport. It's just a shame, obviously, if he spoke English as well as obviously Japanese, then that just might make him a bit more of a crossover type star overall, and obviously not just on the East. But yeah, he did the business. He was very sort of cautious in the first round, moving. He was doing all the moving, and Donaire was pressuring him, so you made you think, oh, Donaire's coming with real intent. And I feel like Inoue was very tentative of the power, and he did say he got hit with a left hook, which hurt him, and it made him wake up and said he has to remain switched on for the rest of this fight. But I think at that point I think he was able to read some of Donaire's tells, and that's where he was able to start landing a bit more of the jab with the speed, realizing that Donaire wasn't reacting to it as quickly as maybe as he had expected. And his technique and his strategy of just setting up the left, constantly throwing from the left hand side, made it to the point where Donaire thought, oh, okay, so you're just going to keep hitting to my right. I'm gonna explode with this leading left hook, as I did earlier on in the round. And lo and behold, Inoue read the tell, hit him with the straight right, straight down the pipe, took his legs away, and I think that was pretty much it from there. Donaire did very well to survive even for the next minute and a half of the second round, but ultimately that was all she wrote. But anyway, that was the weekend in a nutshell. There won't be I don't think there's going to be a weekend wrap or a basis picks this week, because there's only one fight to go on. But I'll probably make a prediction of that in one of the upcoming videos that will take place beforehand. So yeah, that's that. Thanks for watching, and look out for the next video. Should be dropping real soon.